How's it going, everybody? My name's Warner Field with Fields of Profit. Today I'm here with Josh, who's been crushing it on Amazon. He got started less than a year ago, already doing six figures a month. We're going to break down his journey. But if you kind of want to introduce yourself, Josh, maybe let us know how you got into Amazon. We can just kind of go from there.
Definitely. So I did start in the middle of February, and I think prior to that, one of the big motivators for me was wanting to diversify my income. And Amazon stood out for a couple of reasons, but the two biggest ones were that I could do much of the work from home and I could put as much or as little effort into the business as I wanted. And so one of the first actions that I took that's been just immensely helpful was joining the FBA Roadmap. And that really helped compress my learning curve and give me all the necessary skills that were required. And then from there, I just got to work. And it's been an incredible journey so far. We just passed about 8 months in sales and hit that huge milestone of 100,000 over a trailing 30-day period. And I'm just really excited to see where the business can progress from this point.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Great to see the quick growth there. It's been awesome to meet you in person, like maybe a couple times at this point, at least once, I know, which is super cool just to have you in the community. So awesome being able to kind of crush it so early on. But I want to kind of wind it back a little bit for the people who are watching this video. Back in February, what was that first item you might have found? How'd you find it? Like, how did that feel finding that first item back then?
It felt really scrappy in all honesty. I mean, I think back in February, the first item that I sold was actually some bubble bath that I picked up at Marshall's. And, much of my first shipment that I sent in were all items that I was finding via retail arbitrage. And I was just going to stores like Marshall's and Ross and TJ Maxx, Walmart clearance aisles, Target clearance aisles, and just basically trying to scrap together enough product for that initial shipment.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's just making anything work, right? Like, if you were doing it over again, would you still just hit the Marshalls clearance aisle, that kind of thing, just to test it out that way?
It really helped prove the concept to me. So definitely, I think whenever you're going in person and you're scanning and you're able to identify that there's a real opportunity even on a local level, at least for me, it really helped to open my perspective and show me that there's going to be potential elsewhere as well. So definitely, I think that that was a great exercise.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then I know a lot of people before they start jumping into Amazon, they think they have to have some crazy technical knowledge. Like, were there any businesses that you started before Amazon? Like, what stuck out about Amazon versus some of those other businesses?
I have had a little bit of prior exposure to e-commerce on a couple of side projects here and there, but I think just the idea of selling on Amazon seemed like something that was a very learnable skill. And, having the right guidance really made it to where it was something that I could pursue.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So when you were, you're going into store, you're testing products out. You said you're going to Marshalls. At what point in your business did you start looking to start buying things online rather than, walking into the store?
I think it got to a point where, for me, the amount of time that I was putting into retail arbitrage as compared to the amount of inventory that I could buy was pretty low just because I was just getting started out. So after hitting a lot of the Marshalls, I ended up hitting some of the Nike outlets, which let me have a little bit more spend, which was great. But then the first time that I was able to go online and identify a good sales opportunity and spend, the equivalent of a day's work doing retail arbitrage in a couple of hours really kind of opened my perspective to how scalable something like online arbitrage could be and how much more efficient I was able to deploy capital.
Awesome. Yeah. You hit one of those like early on sales. It's like, man, it's like, why was I walking in the store? Like, I just spent 5 grand a day or whatever it is. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
I still do love retail arbitrage today even. And I think now it's the biggest difference is that I'm trying to be maybe a little more efficient about it instead of going and scanning kind of aimlessly. Like typically if I'm hitting a retail store, I generally have maybe a better idea of what I'm looking for, or maybe I'm doing something like a curbside pickup, but generally I'm just trying to operate a little more efficiently whenever I do RA trips.
yeah, for sure. There's still a lot of people like massive scale crushing at retail arbitrage. I'm so impressed by those guys. But I don't want to be rolling up to the store, but like especially during Q4, there's gonna be so many opportunities. Like, oh, my stuff went out of stock, everyone else is out of stock, and we do a pickup order and list it. It's all sales on the same day. Like, so there's gonna be a ton of opportunity like that. And kind of within that process, right? Like somewhere from the Marshalls to now you're doing six figures a month. Like something I like to ask everybody is what was that light bulb moment where it's like, oh crap, like Amazon is significant. Like I can make some serious income. Was there a certain product, a certain sale? Like what was that for you?
For me, and this is kind of minor now, but the day that I saw a product sell over 10 times in one day and I cleared my stock on it, that kind of opened up my perspective a lot. And then just making friendships with other Amazon sellers and going deeper on a lot of purchases and seeing the results from that have just been incredible as well. And over the past, I'd say, 6 months, now that it's been moving, that's been something that's just been really, really eye-opening.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, right? Like I did a little bit of like eBay back in the day. It's like, oh man, it's like you make a little bit of sales, that kind of stuff. But then you list something, it's like, oh, I just sold 30 in a day, or like you're selling your product 10 times in a day. It's like, okay, this is significant. Yeah, that's super cool. So as far as going into Q4, this will be kind of your first Q4. Like, what are your thoughts? How prepared are you feeling since this is your first one? Although you are doing pretty well, like what are you thinking towards Q4 right now?
It's really tough because I know I definitely want to save some capital for opportunities that are going to be coming up in the next couple of months, but also I really want to just double down on what I've already been doing that's been working for me. There are a couple of new products that I haven't sold before that I'm in the process of testing right now, but a lot of my strategy is just going to be trying to monitor a lot of the products that I am selling and making sure that they're in stock and I have inventory ready. I do definitely want to do a lot more FBM though in late November and December, and so I'm going to be incorporating a lot more of that into the mix as compared to today.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a good battle plan. I like what you're saying, where it's just kind of doubling down on what you're good at, right? Like a lot of people will be like, "Oh, I got to switch focus. I got to start selling only toys for no reason." Like, no, man. Like, double down on what you're good at. Like, I'm sure based on what you're saying, you're hitting some Nike, that kind of stuff. Like, all that's going to be selling way faster. Clothes, shoes, all that kind of stuff. So for you guys who are trying to start Amazon, you're getting into Q4. Think about anything that's giftable, right? It's not just toys. So chocolates, makeup. It's awesome. You're just kind of doubling down on all that kind of stuff. And within your product sourcing, when you first started finding products online, what did that look like? Were you doing all reverse sourcing, and how has that evolved over time? Like what was the evolution of your sourcing?
I think originally I was trying to focus on a couple of brands, and then whenever I would find a brand that I could sell, I would then try to find a lot of retailers for that brand. And then a lot of it was just looking at different sales that were going on or different ways that I could maybe stack discounts or coupon codes. And from there, I did do a lot more reverse sourcing. But the thing that helped me the most with reverse sourcing is really seeing what other sellers are carrying and what brands they're carrying, not necessarily the product. Because if I could see that they're having success with a specific brand, then maybe that's one that I would start looking out for as well. But there definitely were some mistakes made along the way. I think initially, whenever I was trying to source some beauty products, I would go onto Ulta and see that bright sale going on where everything's
Yeah.
50% off. And then me and every other Amazon seller in the world bought it and the prices tanked horribly. So whenever I'm sourcing now, I'm doing a lot more manual sourcing on the brands that I carry. And I'm just trying to be maybe a little more particular on the buying opportunity, trying to make sure that there's either some discount I'm able to get or coupon code, or there's at least something that's a little more preventative from other sellers hopping on the listing.
Yeah, for sure. I've seen that especially with the Ulta sale. Like that might be like the most infamous example. They got like 10 items on sale. Every reseller sees like the two items that are profitable, and bang, you got 100 sellers. So yeah, I like the digging a little bit deeper, finding the discounted gift cards, all that kind of stuff. That's really the name of the game. And when people say like, "Oh, my prices are tanking," somebody probably just got their items a little bit cheaper than you were able to. Is what's going on most of the time there. So within that vein, then was there any other like big mistakes that you remember making? You probably made a couple product sourcing mistakes, but what was maybe one of those big mistakes that sticks out that you'd want people watching this video to avoid?
I think a lot of it starting out is I went very wide on all of the products that I was purchasing, which I would definitely recommend. And there was actually a point in which I found a couple of products that I thought were winners. And so I ended up going really deep on them in late May, early June. And really, that ended up just hurting my sales. A lot of the prices tanked on those items. And so what ended up happening is I was trying to churn through the inventory so that I could redeploy it. And that ended up just decreasing my sales month over month. And so I think going back, what I would definitely recommend is making sure that you're staying diversified in all of the products that you're carrying while still going deep on the opportunities that present themselves.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, right? Like at first, like you gotta, it's kind of dumb to go super deep on stuff, and then later on you get the confidence a little bit. But yeah, it's a delicate balance. You got to find the right balance, and I'm sure you're still dialing in on what the right balance is there for going deep and that kind of stuff. Yeah, another thing that I wanted to brag on you about is that you still have a full time job, right? So that's amazing. I think it should be super encouraging for people watching this video that you can crush it if you have a full time job. How are you finding the time? How are you finding balance in your life between running the business and the full time job?
Definitely. So now that we're at a little bit of a larger scale, a couple of things have really helped. One of the primary things is being a prep center. So after I want to say June, I started onboarding a prep center, which took just a tremendous amount of work away from me and allowed me to focus more on sourcing. And then now as well, I have a helper local that helps me do a lot of prep related to FBA and and FBM orders whenever I'm sourcing locally or doing RA trips. And then we also have some virtual employees that we share with another seller. And so that's been incredibly helpful for sourcing. So I think it's just trying to build processes and workflows in place that allow me to just be more efficient with my time.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? Is we're starting an Amazon business for it to be a business. Like, I think a lot of people get in the, like, oh, I have to work 10 hours a day and I've got to like the Instagram mindset, right? It's like, I'm working every hour of the day. But like, if you're doing it correctly, you're making just the amount of money and you got the prep center, you got the virtual assistants, that kind of stuff. When you were looking for your prep center, like, how did you go about that? How should a new seller maybe start looking for a prep center?
I actually received a recommendation from another seller that I'm friends with on my prep center. And so he had a great experience with the prep center that he was using and recommended that I reached out. And so I scheduled a call with them and like what I heard, and it's been a good experience so far. So although there's, a huge list of resources, and I think that y'all actually have some partners as well, I would definitely recommend just going by referral basis. I think that that's what served me the best.
Yeah, for sure. Getting that, the call from your friend, like, hey, my prep center, they got one spot open in the prep. Like, that's going to be where like all the money's made, right? So I like that you're going out and making friends. That's what most of the most successful sellers are doing. So how were you able to make a couple Amazon seller friends? And is it important for somebody watching this video?
I think it's very important. I think that it's very difficult to find other Amazon sellers kind of within your circle. And you definitely want to find people that have the same mindset as you and are looking to grow their business and have the same interest as you. And so I think what I would recommend is definitely reach out to other sellers and then just ask them about their experience and try to build friendships. Don't go out and ask them, hey, what categories are you selling in? Hey, what products are you selling in? But maybe ask them about their experience. Ask them about some of the things that help propel their business, some of the different obstacles or roadblocks that they went past, and just try to build genuine relationships.
Yeah, for sure. Like, there's so much value in maybe every video, maybe every interview video, we end up talking about like networking. It's just that important, right? Like, you're gonna be able to share leads, like, hey, I got this IP complaint. Like, how did you beat it last week? All that kind of stuff, right? Is there any like, off the top of your head, any like quick ways to add value to people? How have you been able to like specifically make a couple connections? Obviously it's going out and being present in the community. Like, what does that process look like for you? How would you do it all over again?
I think I would do it a lot of the same way. I think the only thing that I'm not doing as much as I probably should is posting on things places like Twitter. But generally I messaged a lot of other sellers starting out and then would generally just ask them about their experience and then just try to get a conversation flowing. And then I think as a new seller, it's probably important as well to be, a little selfless, right? One thing that Tom mentioned to me in one of our first discussions is just like, Josh, you don't have enough capital to satisfy the demand of Amazon. And it's so true, right? I don't think anyone does. And so I think that if there's an opportunity where you and your friends can make money on it, then share the lead, and then it's likely that they're going to do the same. And it's a great thing.
Yeah, like there's a couple of those where it's like, I found this product, I could buy like 5,000 of it. It's just not gonna work. Like, hey, bro, go buy 1,000 of this. I'll get 1,000. We'll go in deep on it. Like, they're gonna remember you like that. That's the type of friend you're gonna want to have in Amazon. So, and for people who are watching this video, if they want to reach out to you, got a couple more things. We'll dig a little bit deeper on this video. But if you guys want to connect with Josh, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter. You can find me at BuyBoxBoss. Go ahead and send me a follow. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up in the DMs.
Awesome. Yeah. A couple other things that you were mentioning early on in the video, though. I want to dig a little bit deeper. You mentioned that you had a virtual assistant. How has that process been for you? What is your virtual assistant doing for you?
Yeah, so I actually am sharing two virtual assistants with some other sellers, and it's been a really great thing. And primarily right now, what the virtual assistants are doing is a lot of product sourcing. So generally, what will happen is we'll go and we'll find an opportunity or sale or somewhere that maybe we want to dive a little bit deeper, and then we'll work with our team to go ahead and source those websites and source those opportunities for us. And it's just been a great way to get back some of our time. And I think having a collaboration with other sellers as well is great with it, because whenever we start receiving in the leads, not only can both of us go through them, but if there's a bigger opportunity, we can ask each other our thoughts on it and then make kind of a just get some kind of bias or confirmation on those. So
Yeah.
that's been great.
Yeah, sharing a VA is awesome. Like you're saying, like, it's not just about like, splitting the cost at 50-50. It's about like the value you can add to each other. That's a super cool way of looking at it there. I'm not sure about this one. Like, hey, should we buy 500? Should we buy 100? Like, what are we thinking? That's super cool. And when you were starting to hire the virtual assistant, like, what is like the quick and dirty? How'd you hire them? Like, are you incentivizing them? Like, what's the basics of how that process worked for you?
Yeah, so they were actually found on onlinejobs.ph, and a lot of it is just putting out kind of, I think we used a lot of the templates that are out there on the roadmap in terms of finding someone. on, and we interviewed a lot of different people, and from there brought them on. I think initially it was a little bit of a trial period in terms of payment, where we wanted to make sure that they were a good fit. And originally, I think that we put in a bonus incentive on a per lead basis, and what we've tried to do instead is just increase the compensation that they're getting on a monthly basis, and then allow for yearly incentives and growth that way. So that's what's been working for us so far, and they seem to be pretty happy.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the breakdown there. That's sick. And yeah, I like you're not doing the per lead basis. Kind of getting into the weeds now, but like per lead, like they could find 100 leads that you only sell 10 a month of, right? You don't want those
Mhm.
leads. We want the one lead that's going to sell 10,000 times. So we do like a profit share. Sounds like you're doing like yearly bonuses. So for you guys who do have virtual assistants at home, maybe think about in aligning your incentives together, right? Like per lead wasn't really the best way, as kind of we both figured out there.
Yeah, and I think the reason that we try to stray away from per lead is, what happens if the team just finds a plethora of awesome leads that you just don't buy at that time? Then it's
Yeah.
almost like a punishment. And so that's something that we definitely were trying to avoid.
For sure. Yeah, I like that. So now that you're running over $100,000 a month, I think the next natural question a lot of people at home are wondering is like, what's holding you back now? Why aren't you at 150, 200 a month? Like, what do you think that bottleneck is in your business?
I think a lot of it is going to be finding better sources for my products. And what I mean by that are sources that I'm able to purchase a lot more of consistently of, and I can rely on the stock being there. So next year, a lot of the goal is going to be transitioning more and more into wholesale. I definitely want to continue doing online arbitrage next year as well, but there's some products that I think would be great to add to more of a wholesale model. And from there, it's just really trying to push forward.
For sure. Yeah. It's interesting. I see a lot of people, they get stuck at like anywhere from like 10 to 20K. And then the next plateau seems to be like right where you're at. It's like somewhere between 100 to 120K. And like doing some wholesale, building a bigger team. It's like those are the things that tend to break you out. So I love the game plan there. I mean, I honestly think that like OA, the last like 3 months of the year, maybe 4 or 5 months of the year, and then wholesale the rest, like just focusing on those is like, that's got to be like the best cash machine on the internet right now. So, doubling down on all those brands that you found, calling up distributors, like that's definitely the way to go. Like if you guys at home are like, hey, I've been carrying this really weird small brand, like call the brand, see if they'll sell it to you at wholesale. Like you never know what that kind of stuff can turn into. So that's an awesome vision for the future. What is your sales goal for the end of the year? And like if you have a goal for next year, what's that goal as well?
Yeah, I think I would like to hit 150 to 200K in December, but it's going to take a lot of sourcing to get to that point, and I'm probably going to have to throw in a lot of FBM. So that would be the goal for December, is around 200,000. And then next year, I think it would be great to at least consistently crush, 100K months, and that's really what I'm going to be working towards.
Yeah, that's awesome. So seven-figure seller status next year. You can definitely do it. At least 150. You can probably do 200, depending on how much merch fulfillment you want to do. If you want to really put in the elbow grease, it'll be there for you. That's awesome though. So for that guy or girl who's watching this video, they've made $0 in sales. They've made their first couple sales. What are the specific action items? What should they do to start taking Amazon seriously today?
I think the biggest thing is opening your account, getting your first product listed, and getting it sold through as soon as possible. It's really important to get that initial proof of concept that people are able to buy products on a local or online level and resell it on a platform for profit. And then from there, I think it would be great for them to go ahead and just get educated and maybe purchase, a course or join a community, but just get started, get involved, and then reach out and build some friendships along the way.
Yeah, I love that. Like just taking as fast as action as humanly possible. Like that, getting that proof of concept. Like you're not going to want to spend thousands of dollars until you made that first sale. And if you're waiting months to make it happen, it's just slowing you down massively. So yeah, I really appreciate you hopping on the channel, Josh, dropping some serious gems for him. Again, if you guys want to go drop Josh a follow, we'll leave those social media. We'll leave his Twitter down below. Really appreciate you hopping on the channel. If you guys did get value out of this video, please feel free to like, subscribe, all that good stuff helps me out with the algorithm. Let us know if you have any questions as well. Drop those down below. And I really appreciate you guys watching this video, and I will see you next time.